So I'm continuing on with the building of the Airfix 1/600 scale Dreadnought. As I've said in the previous video, Airfix never made one, so I'm converting an Iron Duke into the battleship Dreadnought. At least I'm attempting to. So I got 3 gun turrets on it here, ones that came with the Iron Duke, and as I've said, they're similar. They're a 13.5-inch gun turret instead of a 12-inch. They're very similar shape. Anyway, I decided to try to make a mold here and cast my own gun turrets. This first mold wasn't 100% successful. I did manage to get a gun turret out of it here. Oh yeah, of course it goes blurry. Anyway, hopefully you can see it there. I painted it. It's cast in black, and so it's very hard to see, unfortunately. But so I painted it gray, and you might be able to see some of the details on it there. Basically, it looks like it got hit by a bunch of shells on the top, and it's got like dents in it, but they're actually bubbles in the mold. So you can see the mold's right full of bubbles, and that's very strange why that happened. Anyway, I'm casting a second mold here. I switched from Umu 30 to I believe it's Mold Star 30 mold making material, and it's quite a bit different than the Umu. I've used Umu type for at least 15 years. This flows easier, but it just doesn't. Yeah, it's like you need to vacuum degas it. This one here, I put it in the little mold box here that I'm reusing, and then I put it under 80 pounds of air pressure, and everything worked okay. But then I took it out, and over the course of hardening up, all the tiny air bubbles that I couldn't see swelled up into ginormous ones there, and messed up the mold. So I decided not to try that again. So when I made this one, I vacuum degassed it twice, and so hopefully it will work out better. I'll cast another gun turret out of it and see how it turns out. But in the course of this, I came to the conclusion that I need a vacuum pump to vacuum degas it. Basically what happens is you lower the pressure on it, and the bubbles, any little bubbles of air in there from pouring, will get bigger and then float to the surface. Whereas if you put them under pressure, like I usually used to with Umu, you shrink them down. They become smaller because, you know, instead of at 1 atmosphere pressure, you put in, say, 4 or 5 atmospheres, so they physically contract. And as long as you keep them under pressure until the mold has hardened, then everything should be okay. But I couldn't keep it under pressure that long. Just down in my basement, and it was cold, so I released the pressure on it, and apparently it hadn't hardened up enough. I really don't know how they all combined into that, being like those huge bubbles. But anyway, so now I'm on to trying to figure out a vacuum pump. So the next portion of the video is on what I did to make a vacuum pump. I got a big air compressor, but I don't have a vacuum pump, so it's kind of the opposite. So in my efforts to make a vacuum pump, I used my air compressor here. What I did, I unbolted the air filter there, and luckily it had pipe thread in it, so I was able to screw this air connector in. Then I ran my hose from there over to my vise where I had a pressure chamber there. Now it's a vacuum chamber. I'll show that. So I've got my pressure / vacuum chamber here. So I put the mold inside there, then screw the cap on, and I got my air line here with a ball valve in it, so I can turn the pressure on and off. That way I can connect it up and gently open it up. If you're using it as a pressure chamber, if you shoot the air in too quick, you can blow the liquid right out of the mold that's inside the chamber. So I know this looks like a giant pipe bomb, but let me assure you it's not. So got to keep, renewing the Teflon tape on it there, and have a bigger one that's made out of plastic, and then I have one that's even larger than that, that's sits horizontal. It's maybe 8-inch diameter or something. But so anyway, I ran this guy over to the inlet of my compressor there, and it turned it into a vacuum pump. But I only ran it a couple minutes because I didn't want to like smoke my compressor or something. So it did pull a vacuum, but I really don't think it got all that much of a vacuum on it there. So since I only have that small vacuum chamber to evacuate the air out of, I just need a small vacuum pump. So here I've got a 12 volt. It's a tire inflator. Normally you plug it in the cigarette lighter and pump a car tire up, although it will take a bit of time to do. Anyway, I happen to have kind of a spare one here, so I've disassembled it. That's the cylinder. It's about 20mm bore, and get the connecting rod and piston here. But the piston, I believe it's Teflon or something there. It's like a piston ring, but it's not. It's a cup. And it's designed for pressure, so the pressure would pop it against the cylinder wall under pressure. Now, because I'm running the opposite direction, it would actually try to suck air in through the crankcase, so I don't want that. So I'm going to, I drilled out the one side so I can get the piston pin out. I'm going to run the piston upside down, put the rod in the bottom. I got some drilling and cutting stuff to do, and then I'll put a new cap on the top. And so that will make the piston ring work in the correct direction. Now, here's the normal cylinder head. That's the interior of the cylinder. So this would be the inlet valve here on the left, and the discharge valve on the right. Looks like a ball valve with a spring on it. So the valve should be okay, but I need to make a chamber or a pipe or something that I can connect to on the inlet side, because that's what I need to connect to the vacuum line going to my pressure chamber or vacuum chamber too. So got my work kind of cut out for me there. I'm not sure if I'll make a 1/4-inch metal plate here and then weld or drill and tap a pipe stub to it or something, and JB weld all this up, and JB the 1/4-inch steel, and then these 3 bolts will cross, bolt it back into the block, I guess you'd call it there, hold the cylinder on at the same time. So that's my intention, is to make a plate. I may use aluminum also instead of steel. That'd make life a lot easier, come to think of it. So this stuff's just some kind of pot metal. I can't tell what it is. Could be steel, but doesn't look like it. Yeah, so hopefully that will result in a decent enough vacuum pump for to do my little molds like this. So just gotta modify stuff sometimes to make things work other than what was the original intention of them, and then I'll just run it off a 12-volt battery. So that's what I've been up to this past week, just tinkering with different things, staying busy during their COVID stay-at-home order. So hope everybody's taking it easy and staying away from that nasty COVID bug. So have a good week. Well, talk to you later.